No dirty talk, just podcasts. No turn-ons, so turn me on. By that I mean this podcast. I'm not interested, so don't date me. Review me, just rate me. Like, subscribe, don't date me. Review me, just rate me. Like, subscribe, don't date me. Don't date me. Don't date me. Don't date me. Alexa, play the podcast Don't Date Me.
Okay, speaking of which, follow us on Instagram at @itsjamiesparks and Twitter at @itsjamiesparks.
Wait, is it?
At @itsjamiesparks.
Don't date me. Don't date me. Don't date me.
You're listening to Don't Date Me, a podcast from Scotland where a certain number of adults discuss dating each week. Follow us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss future episodes. I'm Jamie, a 37-year-old, 6'4", bisexual man and closeted Christian. And I will tell you exactly what I do and do not like in bed. I will promise you that.
Hey, I'm Emma Jane, a 33-year-old, 5'3", demisexual, crazy mama, and I will avoid you like the plague when it comes to talking about sex.
Oh, really? We'll come back to that.
Hello, I'm Caitlin and I'm 27 years old.
Why are you even here?
I know, I ask this all the time.
You're not
You love
30.
you too
I'm not
much.
30. I'm not 30. I'm actually...
But you've got the life experience of a 50-year-old.
when it comes to sex and relationships, yeah, 100%. Yeah. I, unlike Emma Jane, will talk the backside off of you regarding sex and everything in between. So, yeah.
So, what's been new since we were last all on the podcast? What's been happening?
So,
You got a new job.
I've been on since I got my new job.
Okay, since I was last on the podcast, you've got a new job.
Yeah, since you were last on, I've got a new job. Since I was last on, we've just been dealing with everyone's health issues and that's it, really. So,
Is she doing okay?
she's doing better, but still not 100%. But hopefully soon, hopefully before Christmas, we'll get her sorted.
I'm on the tail end of my holiday, back to work tomorrow, sad face. But we just ate all the pizza.
We
Oh,
did.
pizza.
Pizza coma. And what about you, Caitlin? What's been going on?
Well, I have not really done much.
Bedroom?
I've done a lot in that sense.
No! I'm out of decorating.
Oh, I know. No, I have just completely gutted and redecorated my bedroom, including tearing up flooring and putting down flooring. I can now confirm I can lay flooring, laminate flooring.
That's impressive.
Ooh,
DIY goddess in the house.
So basically, when I get my house at some point next year, if I want to put laminate flooring down, just give you a call.
And painting. Oh, and if there's actually wallpaper on the walls.
Do you want to scrape it off?
Yes.
Deal. In last week's episode, we asked, have you ever shut down a relationship or situation because someone shamed some aspect of your body? Yes or no? The results on Instagram, 86% of our listeners said they have shut a relationship down because of this, and only 14% said that they haven't.
Interesting.
Well, meanwhile, on Twitter, it was a tie, with 50% either way. What about you guys? Have you ever shut down a relationship because of body shaming?
Not a relationship, a friendship.
Oh, savage.
So I was, so it was actually while I was in school, within my group of friends, I had other friends out with that really close group, and one of the girls was, two of the girls were bigger set, tall and bigger set, and one of my friends out with my close-knit group made a comment, quite a derogatory comment about one of them. I was like, well, if you're saying that about her, surely you must think that about the other one as well. I was like, no, because she's ugly AF.
Oh.
Whoa.
And I was like,
You're like, friendship terminated. Bye.
I was just like, okay, but how were they different? And they were like that, just trying to, was like, you know what, you're just digging yourself in a bigger hole. I'll speak to you, see you next Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have, obviously. And I've been in a situation quite a few times, like obviously with body shaming and stuff like that. But I remember I went on a date with someone, like on a date with a guy, and one of the first things he said to me on the date was, I've never been with someone bigger than myself. And I knew from that moment that this was not going to end well.
What
And that was the first thing he said. This guy was, going back to my last episode on this podcast, was a walking red flag.
Yeah.
To the sense where he also said on this date that no one in the world was more attractive than him. So as you can imagine, he was
Put in the
rather
garbage
up
bin.
himself.
blocked.
Yeah. And I similarly had a situation which I told you both off air, where someone said something mean to me, and I was like, first of all, not true. Secondly, get in the bin.
Bye bye.
Has to be done. Well, we've got another poll that we're doing this week off the topic of this week, because this week we're going to be chatting all about how to avoid bad sex. So you can take part in our polls in the following ways, either on Twitter or Instagram. Both handles are Don't Date Me Pod. That's POD. We are asking you, would you tell someone they were bad in bed? Yes or no? But the Scottish version, which is aye or no. So, what about you guys? Would you tell someone they're bad in bed?
I wouldn't come out right away and say, by the way, you're so bad. I would be like, can you do it this way instead, in a nice way? And if they didn't get the message after that word, I'd be like, look, that's not enjoyable. So,
I think
no.
for me it would depend on if it was just going to be, well, not that it is for me anything soon, but see if it was going to be one of the ones that it was a one-time thing, I probably wouldn't.
For context, Emma Jane is engaged.
In a serious relationship. Yeah. If it was somebody that I was maybe seeing on a regular basis and it was the same kind of result,
So
I
if
would
it
then,
was a one-time thing, you wouldn't?
no. For something if it was something that I was seeing on a regular basis, I would then do kind of like what Caitlin suggested, just going, can you try it this way?
Even as a one-time thing, though, you can do that. Because if they're really, really bad, then you're just going to have a bad experience all in unless you say no.
The way
Don't
I
do
look at it, nobody likes to be criticised, but I like notes. Not to be overly criticised, but I like to get some feedback. So, like, you know, what did we do well? What could we do better? Like, if I'm with someone regularly, at least. But similarly, if I'm not into something, I'll definitely... Oh, you'll know.
Yeah.
Although, actually, now that I think about it, I can think of one person where I didn't actually tell them.
So can I.
And I didn't... And then I
Absolutely.
subsequently
Yeah.
also then saw them again and still didn't tell them.
But for me to get to that stage with people,
Yeah. Is it because you don't feel comfortable?
Yeah, and it's obviously that we were like, I don't like conversation. It's in that way, where it's that way potentially. It's what we discussed on our last episode.
Yeah.
Where it's that feeling safe, and it's then not discussing sex while having sex. Type
I
thing.
see your point.
And it's then
I
that
see
way
your
it could
point.
also then potentially be quite dangerous, particularly as a female. It's then that way that, and then I'm then concerned that then could obviously then turn into something potentially abusive. So for me, I just wouldn't say anything. I might maybe message them if I knew I was never going to see them again. Just message them, go, here are your notes for the next conquest for you, and then just block them.
I think I would always approach it from the perspective of not critiquing someone, but just saying, do you know what I really like? I really like this.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
I prefer this. Let's do this.
Or,
And, like,
or you
guide
want this,
them
we
down.
should try this.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for me to get to that stage, I probably would have had those
You need to be more
discussions
comfortable.
with people beforehand.
And this is where the demisexuality comes into play.
Yes.
Right?
Definitely.
Access Parkour is Scotland's leading provider for parkour and movement classes across Edinburgh and Scotland. They create non-competitive physical spaces that allow people to develop the skills they need to overcome physical and mental barriers. All their coaches are friendly, experienced and qualified through 2 major parkour qualification providers. Their coaches are also first aid trained and personally selected and approved by Access Parkour for their high standards of teaching. They also have classes for everyone. Kids classes for ages between 8 to 16 years, adult single sessions or longer monthly programs, and they even offer concession rates for those who are running on a tight budget, keeping the sport accessible. To book a session or for more information, visit their website, accessparkour.com, and head to their Instagram or Facebook pages to learn more about their work and to see them in action. Challenge yourself and succeed in the challenges you face with Access Parkour.
Don't date me.
Well, so there we go. Well, let's chat about a bit more about this. So, when researching for the show, I found that 1 in 8 women and 1 in 20 men say that they lack enjoyment during sex, and that's from an article in The Independent. We'll pop that in the show notes. Does that surprise you that 1 in 8 women and 1 in 20 men say they lack enjoyment?
No.
No, to be fair, I actually thought the men percentage would be higher.
I thought it'd be a bit less, to be honest, and the women's would be higher. Which is
No, as in like I'd maybe expected to
No, the women's is higher though.
The women's
'cause it's
is
yeah,
one
but I
in
would have
8.
expected to have been higher.
Oh, even higher than
Yeah.
that. Wow.
Yeah, I would think with men I was maybe expected to be like 1 in 20, have like 1 in 25 or something.
Yeah,
like that.
I would have thought that as well.
But again, I think it's that way where, but then it depends on your scope of people that you're asking, because if you're asking some gay, bisexual, trans, whatever males, you could then see that number being bumped up. Well, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
to
that fifth that's there.
Well, in this particular survey, just for context, it was a sample of 15,162 adults. So it's quite a large number of people were.
Yeah, that's a good kind of scope.
So that's it. But either way, though, that's quite a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
Well, bad sex isn't a new thing. I found Jessica Bennett's review of a book called Bad Sex by Nona Willis Arnowitz in the New York Times. In her book, Nona says that in the 1960s and 1970s, most men involved in the sexual revolution still viewed sex as quantitative, resulting in a lot of bad sex. She says, in, out. She recalls, it was so boring you could die. I'll pop the reference for that in the show notes. So that got me thinking, you know, is boring sex the same as bad sex?
No,
I wouldn't say so either.
no, because
Talk us through that.
Boring sex, like, can just be repetitive sex. Like, if you have sex with someone pretty much the same way, same positions all the time, that's going to become boring. Whereas bad sex
it's bad
is
sex.
bad sex. Yeah, there's no other way to put bad sex out other than bad sex.
Yeah.
Yeah, but boring sex is like the same thing done the same way consistently.
And I think that's where I'm not going to get it, because any relationship that I've had that's ended it's never got to the point where the sex is boring. The sex is always the good part of the relationship. In fact, in some of the relationships is the only part that was good, to be honest. But yeah, so that's interesting, because to me, I view it differently, because I equate boring sex as bad sex, which is interesting.
That is quite interesting.
But again, I can see why that's different, because it's just my perception.
Yeah.
Which is
Obviously, my fiance is the person that I've been in the longest relationship with. But even with him, I wouldn't say our sex life is boring by any way, shape or means.
not for what you've told us, Imogen.
No, I wouldn't say so.
But I have been in relationships in the past where I would say it was either boring or very dull or very
Not
inconsequential.
spicy.
Yes.
Gotta put
It
in a
doesn't
little
have,
bit of
enough,
spice.
doesn't have enough sparkles either.
Zazz.
Well, in that case then, what is bad sex?
Well, we came across a fun article in the Metro by Olivia Cassano that outlines 10 types of bad sex that everyone will have sooner or later in their life.
Oh.
And again, there will be a link to that in the show notes. So let's discuss.
Let's discuss these sweet, sweet bad sexes.
I wouldn't call them sweet, sweet, Jamie.
I'm going to call them sweet, sweet, especially the first one that's on this
Maybe
list.
sour, sour. Not sweet, sweet, sour, sour.
Maybe sweet, sour?
No.
Sour? Sweet, sour, sour?
Maybe, yeah, sour, sour.
Or sour, sweet, sour? Because sometimes bad sex can have a little sweet spot and then it gets sour again. So sour, sweet, sour?
Yeah.
Sour, sweet, sour.
Sour, sweet, sour. Yeah. Go
You're
for it.
overruled, Jamie.
So, first on their list is first time sex.
Oh. Well, I had nice times. My first times. All first times. So...
Oh, so we're not going back to the very first time?
All first. No, but all first times for me. Both because men and
Oh
women.
yeah, sorry. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I got
Because
confused.
he's bi.
Yeah,
I'm bisexual.
bisexual.
It's my strap line. I mean, don't get me wrong, like my first time with a dude was quite awkward.
Mm-hmm.
But from what I've heard, people have really bad first experiences, which makes me laugh. Because I managed to kind of bypass that.
Okay.
I don't know about this. How was your first time?
So my first time was actually when I was older. I don't think people realise this, but my first time was when I was 19, 20.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
So I was much older, and at that time, looking back on it now, I would also probably say I was more coerced into it.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Right.
Just because I was in a really shitty place.
Yeah.
And that was also one of my escape mechanisms.
Right.
And then when I was kind of getting out of that, my other escape mechanism obviously became alcohol and going out every weekend.
Yeah.
I was 19, 20.
I'm 27 and that's still my coping mechanism.
I thought that was going to go
Somewhere.
a different route. I thought you were going to say, so I was 19, so I was so much older and wiser.
No.
And that did not go how I thought it was going to go.
I was still very naive
Yeah.
at that point. It was that way where I would say I probably was coerced into it. And it wasn't awful. It wasn't particularly thrilling either. But yeah. Caitlin.
Well, mine is a little bit more complicated because I kind of have two first times.
Amazing.
Right, which is kind of strange, but I would say both of them were first times, right? Because I had quite a large break between, like, when the very first time and then when I started become, like, having sex
woman.
again and becoming, yeah, you could put it like that. So, like, I was in my teens the first time, and then I was 20, like, after so it was a 5-year gap. And I don't really remember when I was 15, to be honest. But when I was 20, it was an alright experience. Not really something to write home about, but the aftermath of it kinda was not nice. Like, not like the whole situation with that particular human became pretty toxic. So that wasn't a nice experience.
So that was, in effect, bad sex.
It wasn't, the sex wasn't bad.
Just the situation.
Just the memory of it now.
Oh, me.
It just tarnishes the whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah, but I've had lots and lots of good sex after that.
Well, more bad sex, so what's the next one?
Right, so snooze, boring sex.
Okay, so this is interesting because to me, maybe this is the whole bisexual, queer, gay part of me coming out, but I'm like, if the sex is boring, then that's bad sex, baby. I think that's the trouble though. I feel like men place so much emphasis on sex, but I just feel like I think I've been very lucky in the relationships that I've had, because even the relationships that have been truly awful, the sex was amazing. So I feel quite lucky that way.
So we were discussing this before we start recording. So for me personally, because I like things a little bit spicy.
Spicy.
Spicy and sparkly.
But it's
For me personally, missionary
Oh yeah.
sex
Mm-hmm.
is boring, and it's in that way as well, where if you are having sex, same bed, same positions, all that stuff, the repetitiveness of it, if it's always that same bed, always that same position, always the same lingerie that you use, that's then boring.
Yeah.
Same lipstick.
That does
that's
sound boring.
then that's then
That sounds terrible.
boring. So
Okay, I can see, but that's the thing though. Maybe that's why it's so different for queer men, because like they're so a lot of the time more adventurous in the bedroom, so they don't get.
I wouldn't say that that's just a queer men thing, because
No.
I think it's just a personal, like, kind of vibe.
Yeah.
yeah.
And a lot of the time it can be due to lack of communication.
Yeah.
Like, we'll touch a bit on, like, communication and things like that later on, but, like, when it comes to boring sex, if you're having, like, Emma Jane says, like, the same old sex all the time,
Yeah, that sounds terrible.
conversation has to be had.
But that's one of the things, like, I know some people that that's what they love, and that to them is not boring.
Yeah.
That's what they love.
It's personal choice, isn't it?
It does sometimes personally, so for somebody else, like, what I find
The
thrilling
same
and
position
exciting,
every time.
Yeah.
some
If it
people
works,
actually
then-
enjoy it.
But you'll know yourself, like, if you haven't had that experience
Yeah.
to try things with that person or with other people, you're not going to know any different.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't consider that boring
Yeah.
necessarily.
Well, Caitlin, the next one on your list is quite funny because I've got a funny story about this one. So,
Okay.
injury during sex would be bad sex. Now, this is a funny story because it's actually someone's parents.
Oh my gosh. Right,
And
okay.
their parents told us this story because we were talking about, for some reason, we're all having this very like frank conversation about sex in the shower, which we'll come back to later. And they were saying about how they had done it and it had gone wrong. And me being me, I was like, fascinating.
Do tell.
Tell me everything. And apparently, this podcast is labelled as explicit, so I'm so sorry if you're listening to this, Mum. But basically, he slipped out of her,
Okay.
and then they smacked back in the wrong angle,
Oh.
and he basically like bruised his penis, and
Could it be worse?
it was like significantly bruised,
Oh wow.
and they were really worried about it for a moment. Because
Ouch.
you proper hurt it.
Yeah.
You can't
Like, you
proper
can
hurt it.
snap, like, your banjo and stuff,
Ah!
so... Yeah, that is a concern, like, with a few people, to be
Yeah.
fair. Shower sex, the idea of it scares me.
Well,
I said
actually, shower sex is on the
I said that
list.
earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on shower sex? Bad sex?
No.
I love it. I think it's
I
great.
love it too. I love it too.
It's probably the only time in my life I feel like a porn star. I'm like,
Are you
See,
whipping back that non-hair?
yeah, sorry, you can't see what I'm doing. I'm like whipping my hair that I don't have back and forth.
see if you have
Okay,
one,
Sherwood.
the right shower, so you need to have like a rain shower for one.
Yeah.
You need to have a rain shower for one.
Yeah, it needs to not be one of those terrible like electric showers, you know,
Yeah.
if you turn it on it goes like that and it's got terrible water pressure. None of that. It needs to be like a proper good
It needs to be
water
a proper
pressure
shower, and it's that way where it can be because again, angles, if you get angles right.
But logistically as well, it's not going to work for everyone, and
No.
also it does depend on the shower space as well.
Yeah.
Like if it's one of those square cubicle situations,
That's not going to work.
Yeah.
That's not going to work. That's just dangerous because, you know, you can accidentally knock things and put up to scalding hot. Not a vibe.
You done that?
No, I've not.
Another one on Caitlin's list is unexpected fetish sex, which I've got a funny story about.
Fetish is when it's like a kind of fetish that you just turn around and you're like, oh my god, like
We were talking about
really?
this a couple of episodes ago. We were talking about fetishes and kinks and stuff.
Yeah.
Really interesting.
Yeah, which you kind of appeared on,
Yeah,
but
you're-
didn't actually appear on. You're
Was
highlighted
this-
in it.
is
You're,
this the one
you're
that-
in the episodes.
I am in there.
Yeah, I'll play you back some of it
Right,
later.
was this the one where I sent you the voice note?
Yeah.
Yeah, right, okay.
So your
I get it.
Ice Cube stories on it, but
What?
Your ice cream story starts the episode.
Oh
honey.
no!
Yeah,
Did I send that in a voice note or did I just type that?
No,
You
you
said
said
in
it
the
in
voice
voice
notes. It's actually your voice that's on it.
But that's so funny.
Right,
But yeah,
Caitlin is going
I am red right now.
I feel like I referenced this.
Let's just not publicly post that anywhere that anyone that I know, because the person involved, I don't think he'd appreciate that. Sorry.
Well, I think...
I didn't use his name, did I?
No.
That's okay then.
Now, I can't remember if we talked about this on the fetish episode. Did I talk about the feet guy?
No, you didn't.
I didn't, did I? Right,
No.
okay. Well, we're going to get in about it, but not...
And about them toes.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't tell my feet story afterwards.
Yes. So basically, I inadvertently entertained someone with a foot fetish, and I was like, "This isn't for me," but we'll just like commit to the bit, as I like to say. I like to facilitate other people's fun.
Yeah.
And it was a time. It was the best of times, and it was the worst of times. Not for me.
For him though. Wait.
You had a great time. But no, it's... But then again, that wasn't unexpected. Like, I knew that he was into that.
Oh yeah.
But if I did not know that, and then someone was like, how about them toes?
So
Like, that's
with mine,
different.
I didn't know until a point. Is that me where at one point he actually got down on his hands and knees.
Wait,
actually,
and you didn't know at the time?
Not at the time that he actually worshipped and then asked permission.
Worshipped your feet.
Oh my God.
What was he saying? Was he like,
He was
oh,
just
your
like-
feet are so beautiful. Look at those
I
juicy
can't
toes.
even remember because I have mentally blocked this out until tonight. And it's in that bit where he asked if he could suck my toes.
Oh no.
Well, but then again, that's fine if that's your bag,
Yeah.
baby.
We've
But
said that.
maybe he should have communicated that before.
Yes.
Yeah, because that
Yeah.
could have been a complete mood killer. Like,
So another example of unexpected fetish during sex is a guy that liked dirty talk.
oh yeah, I find dirty talk so awkward, I can't lie.
Now, again, I like to facilitate people. I like to enable people. I like to
Yeah.
be there, commit to a bit, all that. But do you know what he wanted me to say?
Did you want you to call him daddy?
No, he said he basically kept saying, he just kept talking about and saying that he was going to
Oh my God.
and he wanted me to call him,
Oh no.
and I'd be all like, yeah.
Oh my God. No.
But then eventually I was like, all right, and then I just committed to the bit, and it's quite funny. But then I couldn't stop laughing in my head though. I was like, because as soon as I was
I
saying
don't think
it,
I'd be able to keep in not laughing at that, to be honest.
as soon as I was saying it, I was like coming out of my own body, listening to myself saying it, and I was like, that's ridiculous.
Right, next on the list, moving on. I'm actually quite shocked at that, but anyway, moving on. Surprise bodily fluids. Anyone get any stories?
I'll be honest, period sex does not bother me. It doesn't faze me at all. Doesn't bother me.
I've never had it.
Neither have I, and it's not really something that...
I want to explore.
No, me neither.
So for me, is that it wasn't really surprise, but it was that way where
Is that not
one
when you're the
time-
horniest though? Sometimes.
sometimes
Yeah, but-
you can do other stuff without the full shebang, which
Sure.
is more fun.
Yeah. Talking of that, actually, you know, occupational hazard, guys, anal sex. These things happen.
Yeah.
You can dish as much as you want to dish, but sometimes you shouldn't have had that salad.
To put you in perspective, Jamie had to explain the salad thing to me whilst we were standing at the interval in the theatre.
Oh, that's right. That is right.
Genuinely.
Anal sex doesn't happen by itself, guys.
Yeah, we went to see Dreamgirls a few weeks ago, and Jamie in the interval was like that, telling me about this situation. He was like, sometimes you just can't have that salad, and I was like, wait, what? It's like, yeah, we're stood surrounded by all these people in posh outfits talking about anal sex salads.
Talking about dishing. Yeah.
I did see Dreamgirls at a different point. from
I
you
have
guys,
to say, like,
Yeah.
I'm not overly precious about that situation. But at least put a little bit of effort in clearing that situation, because otherwise, you nasty, and that's a different type of fetish, and I'm not into that one.
Yeah.
Okay, what's next on the list?
The next one is a personal favourite. Drunk sex.
Love it.
Yeah.
I like it.
I like it because you just throw everything else out the window.
As long as
your inner porn star comes out.
But as long as you're conscious and it's consensual. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Like, there's a line you don't cross. But anyway, drunk sex for me is one of those ones that's just...
Yeah.
I get drunk, like, I have one sip of alcohol and I'm like, right, okay,
Boom.
I am that guy.
I just think I think you can have a really fun time. Like, yeah.
I think drunk sex is one of the ones where, like, particularly if it's maybe your first time with a person or whatever, it's like you're still getting to know one. Like, you might have had, like, sober sex a couple of times.
Yeah.
So this is where you're really going to get to potentially know how dirty your partner can
let loose a little bit.
Because you're not as nervous, you're more relaxed,
Yep.
you're more open to things.
Yeah.
So therefore, you beforehand she might not have wanted him to use a tie you to the bed. But then this particular time, you're like,
Love how
let's go.
Imogen never just has like a generic example. She's always like
Tie me to the bed.
extremely specific about her examples. Just, for talking's sake, just tie me to a lamppost on the street.
Naked?
No.
Naked.
No, that's too far, dear. Too far. But
No, I get you. Like, I think,
Alcohol is a lubricant to remove your knickers.
but I would say though, as long as you potentially are happy not to come, because sometimes guys, because guys, if they're super drunk, they can't actually.
Yeah,
come.
but that kind of benefits us a little bit because
Exactly.
it can
does.
go
They can
longer.
go on forever.
it does.
But it does get to the situation where you have to turn around and be like, look, anywhere near, and they're like, not in this position, and they're like, changing the position. So, next on the list we have experimental sex gone wrong.
So, case in point, being tied to a lamppost. I can see. Well, I guess that goes back to the shower example, right? Of like trying something spicy now and it going
Horribly wrong.
horribly wrong. I can't think of any example of myself where something's gone terribly wrong.
Myself, no.
No, terribly. Like, if you experiment with something and you're just like, do you know what? This isn't working for me. That's kind of like you tried it.
Actually, no, I do have an
you tried
example. You know how you can get those like flavoured lubricants?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
They are.
There are so many and they're so sticky and horrible. So that's an experiment that went wrong.
Yeah.
I just felt like I was covered in fructose. Like,
Also, you know how Durex do like the partner
Yeah.
lubricants? They are fucking shocking.
oh really?
They no.
What do they do?
No,
What are they supposed to do?
There's one that actually burns.
Oh really?
Yeah, it's like really, really nippy.
Oh yeah, is that the one that's meant to be tingly?
Yeah,
It's meant to tingle, but it just sets everything on fire.
yeah,
Oh no.
Can you imagine?
yeah. So
Haven't
that's
used it,
not
but you know.
that's not good vibes.
And speaking of chemistry, no chemistry sex.
Okay,
Which I think is a good one because
Yeah.
that to me is the definition of boring sex.
Bad sex.
Is like boring and bad sex is like no chemistry.
yeah. So that one and the next one on the list kind of like
What's the next one?
interlink
Being
for
selfish.
me.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So
Take us through that imagery.
So I'd been seeing this guy before I was with my now partner, and we'd agreed we were gonna meet up and have some fun times, and we went about it, and for me it just wasn't really doing anything.
Oh no.
Like nothing at all. Like didn't even get like a little mini tingle.
And were you at the
Nothing.
point where you were comfortable to say that to them, or
No.
not yet? Right.
No. So just that, and then it's just that where it kind of just made me realise that this isn't really.
It's not doing it.
It's not doing it in any way, shape, or form. Like for anything, and I think he kind of picked up on that as well because to be honest, after that I never heard from him again.
Yeah, I think it kind of, like, when that happens, you kind of just, the both of you get a vibe that, like, it's not working.
happening. So that's a good example
So-
of selfish sex as well, right? Because if he could pick up that you weren't interested in
Yeah,
it.
also, he well finished, I didn't.
Yeah, no, but, like, I said this earlier on when we went through the list as well. Men can be quite selfish in the bedroom and
Yeah.
all out for themselves.
Yeah,
And, like, they do not care what you want and whether or not you finish or nothing.
but
There's a lot of selfish sex.
Yeah,
there
for
is,
sure.
but it's not just men. We will
No,
preface that it's
of
not
course
just
not.
men. There is.
I've done it
still-
myself, where I've been all out for myself and then I'm like, I don't care, you can do what you like.
Yeah, it's that way. But I've known some men to not really want to worry about themselves,
Mhm.
and it's that way where that was like, I
They
don't
sound
care. I
like a
just
keeper.
want
They
you
are.
to. I
We
did.
go back.
I did.
Oh, yeah.
And it's that way where
Mhm.
see when you find the one that only wants to satisfy you, it's in that way where you're trying to satisfy them. Like, no, it's your turn. You're like
Yeah.
that.
Those ones are
Well,
great.
from a
Yeah.
queer man perspective, I know I'm very critical of like the whole persistent need to label everything in the gay community, like top, bottom, side, what's the other ones? Otter, bear.
Oh, did you?
Polar bear.
You'll never
Caitlin's
seen
like,
this.
what are you
What?
talking about?
You've never seen this. There's the thing that you can do on like with your hand apparently that determines if you're a top or a bottom.
Oh my god, let's do it.
It's on TikTok.
Can I do it right now?
Oh,
Yeah.
it's on TikTok, it must be true.
Right, hold on, my sock's falling off.
Let's find out if Caitlin,
Right.
live at the podcast,
Let's see.
is Caitlin a top
Right, so
or
what do you do?
bottom?
How do you do it?
Do you know what a top or bottom is?
Of course.
Okay. What's the aside?
Is that when you lie on your side?
It's when you're not into either.
Right, okay.
Yeah, it's called aside, isn't it? Yeah.
Pick a side and
I
get
don't
on with
know.
it.
Like, I can't remember the actual things what it is. Though. I just
Right,
remember
look
it
it
being a thing. But
Right,
I'll look it
look
up
it
and
up
see
quick.
if I can figure it.
I'm just actually googling it to make sure I'm right. Yeah, so it's like top, bottom, or side. Because side is the guy that prefers to kiss, hug, or engage in oral sex.
So what is a polar bear, or did you just make that up to confuse me even more?
So it's like an older bear.
Like
like
a good
kinda-
cuddle.
Like a good cuddle.
Like a wee cuddle.
Yeah.
Can we not just have a little cuddle?
And then you've got your daddies and your jocks and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, so although I can be critical of that, I can see how it's important because I've dated someone who was not the same position as... No, because I would regard myself as kind of like versatile side.
Mhm.
Wow, we're really getting in it in this episode, aren't we?
Yeah.
I dated an exclusive top,
Right, okay.
which was problematic because then I wasn't fully satisfied.
Yeah, which you can't have. That's
Yeah.
not a two-way relationship.
So yeah, so I guess
That's what you call a selfish lover.
selfish lover, and that is why they are in the bin.
Don't date me.
Listen to Faith Me, a podcast for the makers of Don't Date Me, which explores matters of identity through the lens of faith. Why do people put their faith in the unexpected, and how does it shape them? Let's find out. Hey, I'm Jamie, one of the presenters from Don't Date Me. On every episode of the show, for the past 3 seasons, I started every episode by saying that I'm a 6'4" bisexual man and closeted Christian. Obviously it's a bit, and it's supposed to be a bit tongue-in-cheek, but yeah, I'm a Christian. Well, a person of faith. I believe in something. Balancing that with my sexuality has been a challenge over the years, as I'm sure you could imagine. Maybe that's why I find matters of identity, generally speaking, so fascinating. Maybe I'm intrigued by how people form their identities as their struggles mirror my own. Throughout the Don't Date Me podcast, we explored matters of sexual identity, and it was fascinating. But in my new limited edition podcast series, I'm going to explore matters of faith, the cross-sections between personal identity and the things that people believe in, and it's not going to be what you're expecting. Follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts, so you don't miss future episodes.
Don't date me.
So, what's our top 3 tips for avoiding bad sex or just generally improving your sex life?
Right, my top tips for avoiding bad sex. I'm just going to jump straight in. You have to have trust. Trust is key. Comfort. If you're both comfortable in the situation. Foreplay is 100% something that needs to happen for good sex to happen. Because typically with women, a lot of women cannot finish if they haven't already been involved in some foreplay.
Yeah.
I agree, and
Foreplay can be fun in itself, and
Yes.
foreplay can be...
Foreplay is fundamental.
Foreplay is also fundamental about building trust
Yeah.
with a partner,
Definitely.
which kind of leads me on to, I suppose, mine, because it's then that with honesty is
Yeah.
like my one, is honesty. So that way where if you're honest with your partner, and it's exactly where, again, for me, it does take me a while to be able to like speak about things just because that's the way I am, but I will still be honest with my partner and go, you know, that thing that we tried that one time, I didn't enjoy that.
Yeah.
Let's not do that again. However, I would like to try it this way instead.
Yeah.
It's then that way where it's the honesty part of it. The next thing for me would be like safety. So making sure that you're safe in every way, shape or form.
Yeah.
So making sure you kind of don't kind of come back to it. So again, we're talking about the drunk sex type thing. Making sure you're not too drunk as to where you could potentially KO and then somebody takes advantage of you.
Or with the other person being in the same situation. Like if
Yeah.
if you're both the same level of drunk, like
It's fine.
It's fine.
Picture
but if
the
one of
scene.
you is completely
Yeah.
out,
Picture the scene, you're on a date, you both shared a bottle of wine, you're making out, you're having a good time. That's what we're talking about.
yeah,
And then my next one for me is like consent. So
ties into the whole drunk thing as well.
yeah,
Definitely.
yeah, and it's that way where like all of these I would say do tie in to one another.
Yeah.
In one way or the other. What about you, Jamie? What's yours?
Can I
Yeah.
but can I just say before you say anything, like anything else, when it comes to any type of sex at all, consent is the forefront of anything that happens.
Yeah.
You cannot have sex with someone unless there is consent from both parties.
So Emma Jane, now that you're in the position of being in a long-term, loving relationship, you won't need to worry about this. But should you ever need to worry about this again, if you're just not into it, just say.
Yeah.
Be like, get out, me. I don't like that.
Yeah.
Don't
I'll
just be
tell you
like
this now.
lying there like a plank and thinking, oh well, I might as well just wait till it's over.
No.
I'll tell
That's
you this
bad
now.
sex.
That's bad
I
sex.
will
Bad
tell you
sex,
this
baby.
now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do that.
Good.
If you're not, if you don't, me and Jamie are going to come for you.
Yeah.
No, as in I'm gonna just lie there and just
Are we?
wait until it's
Well, I will.
Caitlin's gonna come for you. Good times. I won't come for you.
My dirty mind just played right up.
I was just about to go.
I won't come for you.
Why not? What if I make it nice for you?
Get your feet out. Then I'll consider it. No, anyway. So, what about mine? I'm glad you asked. Okay, so my first one is communication. And I think specifically about setting expectations. Because I
Yes.
recently had a dating situation with someone where we bizarrely hadn't set expectations as to what was and wasn't going to happen, and that just led to kind of like a bit of awkwardness, and I was like, curious. So yeah, I feel like setting expectations is really important, and also just communicating in general. So I'm into it, I'm not into it, I prefer this, let's try this kind of thing. And you can like gently guide someone as you're having sex. You don't need to critique them whilst they're inside you, but you can let them know what feels good. Next, I would say practice. Get to know yourself, because how you got to get to know someone else if you don't know yourself.
Yeah.
How are you going to help someone satisfy you properly?
If you don't
exactly.
know.
You don't know yourself, you don't know what you like,
exactly.
what you enjoy.
And that's what I spent all of lockdown doing.
Yeah.
I had a great time.
Yeah. With the bad stuff.
So
I know you did.
so whenever people were whinging about being indoors on their own.
Jamie was so happy.
I was having a time. And I thoroughly recommend you do the same. And also, lastly, I would say be open to try new things as well.
Yeah.
And I find it interesting, I'm the one that's saying this because off the back of what we were talking about earlier about not often being in relationships that have boring sex, I find it interesting that I'm the one that's being like, try new things. But discuss it with your partner.
Yeah.
Maybe you do open up your relationship. Maybe you...
Communication is key.
Yeah, communication really is key. Like, and I think having chatted to various people about polyamory and open relationships and that kind of stuff, I can see the benefits that can bring for people's love lives. So that could be something that could be interesting to chat about and explore. I'm not saying it's going to be for everyone because it's not, but also the kind of kink stuff we were talking about and the fetish stuff not last week, but the week before as well is another thing that you can try new things. But I just think
all of the things that we've got to success all kind of focus on, because you can't gain consent without communication.
Yeah.
So therefore, communication and consent go hand in hand.
Yeah.
So those are your two kind of
tenets
and your two kind of bounding pillars, I suppose, of a relationship that you need to have.
Yeah.
Because you need to have good communication, and that's something that myself and my partner had like set from the get-go. Like we both said, if X, Y or Z happens, we'll let the other one know.
Yeah.
And we'll both agree just to end the relationship type thing.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing that we set very early on in our relationship, that's something that we've even like held to this day. So, and even that way where like maybe some slight potential deal breakers have come up, we've discussed them and we've resolved them, sort of thing. So,
and I think reflecting on my experiences, like if I ever find myself, not that I would do necessarily, but if I ever find myself in a situation where I was with a partner who was a different position to me and was fixed in that one position, maybe I'd be like, hey, you're not satisfying me.
Yeah.
Let's open things up. Or, do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Communication is definitely key.
Yeah, because let's face it, you cannot have a healthy, satisfying sex life without communicating with the other person.
Definitely. That's interesting. So ultimately, a lot of our tips have kind of all overlapped, but they all come back to communication, which is good.
Yeah.
So you've heard what we want to say. Now we want to know your tips for avoiding bad sex. Drop us a WhatsApp voice note or send us your message by hitting the contact button on our Instagram, instagram.com/don'tdatemepod.
And if you have a sex horror story, need some advice, or just want to share an opinion, you can email it to don'tdatemepod@itsjamiesparks.com. We will see you on next week's episode where we're going to be discussing situationships. What is the alternative if long-term monogamy isn't the one for you?
Ooh, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
So as we say in the exact same way every single week without deviation, stay communicative.
Don't forget to practice.
And definitely
Don't date me.
Unless you're amazing in bed.
Hey, thank you for listening. The Don't Date Me podcast is created by Jamie Sparks Productions. If you enjoyed it, follow our show and rate it 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening. You can rate us each time you listen to an episode. Pure do it, as it helps people find our show. Keep in touch by dropping us an email at don'tdatemepod@itsjamiesparks.com and follow us on Twitter or Instagram at don'tdatemepod. If you love what we're doing, please consider donating to UNICEF to aid the people of Ukraine. Recently, our listeners raised £410 after gift matching. You can find the link in the show notes. See you on the next episode.